I wanted you to tell us about the production Messiah and what we can expect from the performance.
Handel's Messiah is possibly one of the most well-known oratorios that there is. It's got fantastic music and a piece that everybody knows, the Alleluia chorus. So we're going to do that. It's our very first full-length oratorio, and we thought we'll start with something that is very accessible, and it has wonderful choruses. So we have a really good choir of about 22, and we also have 4 brilliant soloists, mezzo, a tenor, soprano, and a baritone. It has fantastic artists, such as I Know That My Redeemer Liveth, which is one of the most gorgeous pieces of music. And the whole piece is filled with fantastic orchestration as well, which is also something quite special in the Messiah. So that's why we're doing it, because it's brilliant. And I know we'll do it justice. And it'll be very refreshing to see an all-black cast and an all-black orchestra and a black conductor. So yeah, it's next Tuesday is going to be a very, very exciting evening.
Yeah, it'll be so special because you're right. I've never experienced something where I get to see an all-black orchestra, an all-black cast. Even as you said, it just everything on the stage will be all black, which is so beautiful to see, especially because you often don't see that very much. And I also heard that there's going to be rum punch and black cake.
Yes, in the interval, yeah, sorrel with ginger, fabulous rum punch, made with El Dorado Guyanese rum, and our cake again is very much a traditional Guyanese black cake. There is also a couple of the cakes we've got, we've got a ginger and orange cake, and we've also got lemon drizzle, which is possibly my favorite, but I'm looking forward to that, yeah. So yes, that's all part of the package.
That sounds delicious. Are you from Guyana? I'm from Guyana, so I was so excited when I saw black cake. I was like, oh, okay.
Well, I can say we didn't have the garlic pork because we just thought that might be one little too far, but something I adore. But I'm not Guyanese. I'm actually Kittian. I come from St. Kitts.
Oh, you come from St. Kitts.
My Guyanese connection is predominantly all our friends, especially those in our church. Is a very big Guyanese group of people that we know, and are fantastic at catering. So,
wow,
a Guyanese cake, yeah.
That's amazing. I was going to ask you what inspired you to establish the Black British Classical Foundation, and also how it has evolved since you first launched.
Okay, well, it all started years ago when I was in Porgy and Bess down in Glyndebourne, and then at the Royal Opera House. And I think most of the young people in it thought they had arrived and they'd probably get more work. But basically, it was like, you do Porgy and Bess and you're out, you know. There wasn't no through casting. And it was often people saying, well, we didn't know, are there any black singers, you know, that's good enough, you know? And I just thought, well, it's time we actually sort of prove and actually showcase talent to the industry, because that's what it was all based on, to the industry, to say, look, here's the talent, why aren't you using it? And we started way back in the 80s when we had, well, in those days I had several bars called the Brixtonians. And instead of just giving money to any charity, we always gave it to young black people who wanted to study classical music, and created opportunities for them to sing in our bar. Then it got a little, we sang in festivals, and it got a big, and we went on a tour of the Caribbean. So it was only when I gave up the business, I decided to formalize the what we then called New Voices Old Song into a formal charity, and how the Black British Classical Foundation came about. But it was during that period, it was still, how do you actually really catapult someone? And there used to be this competition, there still is this competition called Hardest Singer of the World. But again, it never had any sort of Black representation till I started to battle and argue about this. And now they seem to go out their way to find them, but they're not finding people who are at the same level as their white counterparts within the competition. It's just laziness where I'm concerned, because they just decide to go certain places and they don't go into the hedges and the byways to find raw, brilliant. So we then decided to create our own competition called Voice of Black Opera, and it's for Black and South Asian singers from the Commonwealth. And we trawl the Commonwealth, and not just the Commonwealth, the world really, because there's lots of us who live in different parts of the world, although we are Commonwealth passport holders. And that is basically what we do. So since then, we actually, all those who've really made names for themselves as Black singers have come through our hands. You know, so although no one really gives us credit for it, we know we are part of that, part of actually making it happen for them.
Just tell me a bit more about the competition and how it kind of runs.
Yes, well, basically, we go around the Commonwealth and we go around the world. We then find the best 20 singers. Those 20 singers are chosen because everyone has sent in tapes. We have a panel of professionals who sit down, judge those tapes, and find the best 20. They do that independently. Once the 20 are chosen, they get together. And again, they review the tapes collectively, and they have to whittle those tapes down to the best 12. Those 12, wherever in the world they are invited to the UK. Over a period of 2 weeks, there's heats, masterclasses, coaching, till we find the best 5, who then get the opportunity to sing for 20 minutes each with a full orchestra. And there is 3 compulsory elements. One, an aria from a Western opera in its original language and its original key. Then they have to sing a piece by a Black composer and also a duet. Then somebody hail Voice of Black Opera competition, the Sir Willard White Award, and that is £10,000 at concert. And the other prize is the person who sings the best composition by a Black composer, and they win the Samuel Coleridge Taylor Award, plus £5,000. And the other thing they also get is a song cycle written for them with a guarantee of 3 performances. And that's the competition. And that's the stress for 2 years at a time, getting it together. But the end result's always brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. And like the prizes are outstanding, because usually with competitions, you get the exposure, but to have all that additional stuff as well, it can be really life-changing for people.
Yes, we've been very lucky in the talent we've found, and they've all gone on to do wonderful stuff. And Dee Mortimer currently is the most exciting singer at the moment, and she's at the English National Opera. Elizabeth Llewellyn, well, she's now around the globe singing. Yeah, so there is some really good talent out there.
Yeah, it's amazing. I was actually going to ask you if you could highlight a specific success story or impact that your competition has had on an individual or the classic community as a whole.
I think I'd rather talk in terms of the classical community as a whole, because I think that's where change is coming, or has to come. And I think this is the sad thing about it, is that those of us who push for change, people tend to be awful towards really the establishment, because I think they'd rather us just crawl under a stone and be quiet. But you know, you have to, if you believe in something, you have to stand up and say it, and actually push and push and push. I thought when we set up the organisation back in the 80s, I actually said we'd only need to run for 10 years, because I felt within 10 years, change would be just so amazing that regardless to black, white, or purple, you will be able to get work. I think it has changed more and more because it's not because the established house wants to do it or see the talent that they feel they've got to actually take notice of, but I think it's the Arts Council in their view about if diversity isn't within the company, I think that their grants are threatened. And to me, that seems to have made the most impact there. But I know other people have picked up on things we're doing, like Kazi Singh of the World. Suddenly they're now talking about singing in mother tongue. Well, that is something that I am. But again, they'll never say from whence it came. But yeah, so I can see it. We all see it, but we never get the credit. But I think the most important thing, change is coming. Slower than I would like it, but it's on its way.
And that's hopeful, sure, but you're right, it's so slow. It would be amazing if it was just so much quicker than what it is, but I really hope within the next few years we just see like just a miracle of just change.
Yes, I think the other big problem is the building, the establishment. And I know lots of people have been going on about making statues of this, that, and t'other. I honestly think it's such a waste of money. I think because if you live in the Outer Hebrides, and they'll say no blacks live up there, but I lived in Edinburgh, which isn't quite the Outer Hebrides, but there's a great group, loads of people, black, who live in, say, Edinburgh. Are they going to take a train to come down to Waterloo to look at that statue? No, I don't think they will. You know, I think loads of us in London have never been to have a look at it. You know, and I really think it's possibly that we should be building the most amazing complex like the South Bank, and where we know all the productions will be people of colour. So we don't have to have the black this or the black that. You just know when you come to that building, expect excellence and expect an amazing array of color on that stage. And I think it's living history. It is a way that we tell our stories, and we keep refreshing it because there's more. Every new generation will want to tell the story in a different way. And I just don't understand why those who say they are community leaders, non-elected, actually don't understand Black history isn't just talking about the past, it's about us making history by Black people. And I wish I can get the right peoples to just think in that direction, really.
Well, totally. It'd be interesting if there was, like, as you said, like the South Bank, a beautiful theatre as well. Nothing run down, but something that is just so nice that when you walk in, you feel like, yeah, this is where I belong, and this is where great performances are going to take place. It'll be amazing.
Absolutely.
And it would just be so nice.
And it's so easy to be done. And it also means to me is every Black person or any person of colour and our white friends to buy a brick. Yeah, and on that brick you have your name, and with technology as well, you can go to your brick and then you can see your family heritage, and all these things could be all put in there, and it could be so exciting, and it can be done.
Yeah.
But it's that's another thing. I'm not sure I'm too old as well. I hope somebody does it in my time.
I hope it happens before within the next 10 years. That'll be amazing.
It would be.
I was going to ask you what advice you would give to an aspiring Black opera performer or composer who may face challenges in breaking into a field that has historically lacked diversity?
Yeah, what would I say to them? Don't give up. Reach out and find other Black people within the same space as a support network. And it might sound grim, but there are organizations there that's not necessarily Black-led who actually want to help, but they only, they want to help, but you must remember they're coming with an agenda. But besides that, there are some individuals who are actually really positive about such work. But I think the strength will come from your network and your fellow people of color. And there are Black organizations out there that are really trying to make a difference. And so I think that is probably if that was me, this is what I'd do. I'd probably try and find other like-minded people and people who actually understand the same issues.
Well, that's really good advice, actually. I have some very quick fire questions for you.
Okay.
So it's whatever comes to the top of your head. My first one is your favorite theatre space, or a space where you would, in your case, it would be a space where you can perform classical music or opera.
I suppose it's the ENO, English National Opera, the Colosseum. I actually really like that space, and I used to live around the corner from it. So it is somewhere that's I feel I used to feel very at home there. Yeah.
Nice, that's beautiful venue. Your favorite live performance show? So it could be a theatre show, it could be an opera, but your favorite one?
I definitely would say it was the very first year Paul Gimbes was performed at Glyndebourne. I came out of that theatre feeling incredibly proud. I wasn't in it in that first production, but I came out feeling terribly, terribly proud. It was the most amazing experience that night. I was there on the opening night. And I do remember as we were going down to the ha-ha to have our supper in the long interval, one lady said to her friend, "Now tell me, are they really Black people? Is it white folk Black top?" And I thought, oh dear, she can't believe that Black people could sing and could be at Glyndebourne. Yeah. But that was one of the most life-changing experience of seeing a Black cast of such quality. It was absolutely brilliant, led by Sophia White. It was absolutely brilliant. I wish I could take the whole of people there. It's a big tragedy that Glyndebourne doesn't tour their big productions as that, because again, that would have been so amazing to take it around the country. So people can hear and see such quality, because everything was just first class, right down to the costumes, absolutely detailed. It was brilliant. So that was one. What else have I seen that? What do you know? I went the other night to a musical. I went to see Sinatra up in Birmingham the other night. And I must say, it was one of the most exciting, most wonderful performances I've seen in a long time and memorable. But there was a Black lady in it, and she had a very tiny part, as we say in the business, a cameo, playing Billie Holiday. Well, she does this number, One for the Road, and then the place erupts with applause as she finishes the number. She exits, she gets a round of applause. 2 minutes later, she has to come back and do a crossover, just walk off, dragging her fur behind her. She gets another round of applause and a standing ovation. She was sensational. It was one of those nights in the theatre, you saw somebody who was playing such a small part, but you sense that she is going to be a big name in the business. If she can just turn such a tiny little part into a mega point of memory of a show. It was just wonderful. It's supposed to be coming into the West End, so it's something that must not be missed, even if it's only for that little cameo. But that play, he was brilliant. Yeah.
You've sold it to me. When it comes to the West End, I'm going to have to watch it.
Yeah.
My next 5 question for you is a dream guest that you would like to come next week to the Messiah. So it could be someone that could be dead or alive, but someone you would like to see the performance.
Pretty Yende.
Okay.
I would love to actually get to meet her. Well, I did meet her once, well before she was known. She did a concert at Dagon Hall, and my brother and I sat on the front row. I think we're the only blacks in the audience. Then afterwards, we were able to say hello to her in her dressing room. And she was delightful. Again, she's now been rocketed because she sang at the coronation, She Who Wore Yellow. It's quite a dress, that. But the voice was first class. And now her sister as well is also a singer and a soprano. Yeah, so it's interesting. And I think that would be the person I so much would like to meet, because I think she'd also be an incredible mentor to our young singers. And I think she can actually give some real good advice. So yeah, Pretty Yende.
That's a really great. She's from, I might be wrong, but is she from South Africa?
She's South African, yeah. That's where a lot of the hot talent is coming from.
Interesting. Yeah. Wow, that's so interesting. Your proudest career moment to date?
I think the proudest thing I've ever done was the creation of the Brixtonian, but it's in a bizarre way, it is connected, because without that, the singing, possibly organization, would never have happened. Yeah. But yes, and the sad thing about it, when we were doing it, and we had 3 of them, when we were doing it, I never had the time to sort of sit back and appreciate what we had done. It's only now so many people saying what it was to them and how brilliant it was. And I think, that's rather nice. But it's a pity I didn't have the time to just stand back and say, yeah. Although I always said thank God for it virtually every day, and pray that we were alive at the end of the day. But it wasn't. I think that's one of the proudest things I've ever done. Yeah.
I also read that you founded the first Black soap opera, Brothers and Sisters.
I wrote the idea, the concept paper. I wrote that, and I created all of the characters for the first series. But by the second series, they started to add things which I hated, guns and so forth, and drugs. And I just thought, this is just not what I wanted to be involved with. And it's a pity, because even again, so many people still talk about Petronella as a fantastic character, and she was. I have sometimes thought about sitting down and write Petronella rides again, but it's just time, really. I've written a musical, which is what I really would like to get sorted and done. We did it as a tryout, but again, it's years ago. I did this sort of late 70s, an all-black cast of Cinderella. Basically, it is a version of Cinderella, like so many other plays are, based on the basic story. But ours has lots of twists and turns, and it's called Chico. And and when the shoe fits, everybody screeches out, "Oh, it fits, it fits," and it don't finish it. So yeah. So that's the thing I would love to actually do. And it's set in Martinique, end of the century. Actually, it's a bit of a camp run, so yeah. That's the thing I'd love to do next.
I would love to see that. I'll be waiting for it to come out. I'm sure it will. Yeah. I'm sure it will. And my last quick question for you is the person who has had the greatest impact on your career.
Mm. It's actually quite bizarre because everything I have done in my life, I have done it with no one else that I know has done it before. When I set up, well, my background is odd. Well, having left school, I started to train as a cost accountant. I used to fall asleep, hated it. So I joined the Royal Air Force for 5 years. Didn't particularly like that either, but I did have fun and travel and all that. But I always knew that theatre was the thing I wanted to do. So when I left the force, I went into theatre. Well, I had no one in my background who was in the military. I had no one in my background who was in the theatre. And then when I decided to set up my bar and restaurants, I had never worked in one. It was only when we had moved from West End, Water Street, to Brixton, just after the first riots. And then one night my wife said, well, where are we going to eat? I said, darling, this is Brixton. In those days, there was just nothing, none. And she said, well, why didn't you open one? And I said, I've never worked in restaurants. I don't know anything how to do it. And she says, look, you've eaten in enough restaurants and you always know what's wrong with them. So therefore, put it right and it'll work. And that's how it all happened. And again, no experience, just passion. Then looking back, a cost accountant, Royal Air Force is all about organization, being on time, theatre. And as I used to say to the staff, raise the curtains, dim the lights, dim reserve. Theatre. It's all smile in the aisles, and just get on with it. And yeah, so it's quite strange. You do things or things happen to you in your life, or you work in different areas, but you don't realize that you have the amount of transferable skills you have and that you can actually do things. But again, I don't think we often give ourselves time, or we don't actually have the time to sit back and see how all these things have actually come together. And there is a guide, I believe firmly, that although I may not see it, there is the hand of God is working somewhere in keeping and putting all these, what seem desperate, different ideas together to actually confirm what you will do at the end.
I totally agree with you on that one.
Yes.
No, that's really nice. Vincent, thank you so much for talking to me and so early in the morning as well. I have
That's a problem. That's a problem.
Thank you so much. It's been
Well, thank you.
No, thank you so much.